Why is it so hard sometimes to move on when you know deep down in your heart that it's something that you got to do? And yet you find yourself staying even longer than you anticipated, longer than you really feel like you should. Maybe you're that person today. Maybe you're in a relationship. Maybe you're in a job situation. Maybe you're in a mindset and you know that it's time to move on, but you just don't know how. Well, I want to help you today. I've got some keys that I feel like are reasons why people stay longer than they should. And I want to help you with those keys today. Keep watching because I believe that this episode is going to help you today. My name is Trisha Warren, and I'm the host of the Hope Beyond the Hurt podcast. And I want to welcome you back for those of you who have continued to watch. And if this is your first time, or maybe you've never subscribed, I would love for you to go ahead and subscribe to this channel. It means so much to me, and not just to me, but to also my family and to all of those who are in this family, this Hope Beyond the Hurt podcast family, because we are reaching so many people and we are endeavoring to reach people with hope that don't feel like they have it anymore. And so that's really my heart. And so go ahead and click that subscribe button. That would mean so much to me. Thank you so much. And let's jump right back in to this material today, because I know it's a deal. I know it was a deal for me, because I really struggled in knowing in a relationship, a marriage relationship, whether or not it was time to move on. And so let me be really honest with you. When you stay too long, you begin to lose yourself. You begin to lose your self-worth. You begin to lose your respect for yourself. You become resentful. You become hard-hearted. You become bitter. You become disconnected. So really, sometimes moving on is really what you have to do, because otherwise you lose who you are. And so staying is not always you're just doing the right thing, you're doing what it takes. Sometimes you're just being hard-headed. And so you need to see and really ask God to help you with clarity and to know really what to do in those types of situations. And what I really want to encourage you with today is, if you're in an abusive relationship, you're in a dating relationship, you are in a marriage situation, and there is physical abuse, there's sexual abuse, there's mental abuse where they beat you down. Those are situations where there's no question in your mind. You need to know you need to get out. You need to move on. When I'm talking about moving on, these are serious situations that I'm discussing today, but abuse is not one of those situations where you consider whether or not you're going to stay or go. So, I want to talk to you about some reasons why I believe that people find it challenging to move on. Number one is fear of change. And so you may know in your heart that it's time to move on, but there's all of these variables that come into play. So maybe it's a new job, a new home, a new city, a new routine. Your children will have to be moved with you, or there's financial instability that you're concerned about, or your financial stability. So all of these things, it's a risk. There's a risk moving forward, moving on. And so, but there's reasons why that and we're going to discuss that in just a minute, red flags to let you know emotionally how you can tell if it's time to move on. But don't let these things that we're discussing be reasons why you don't move on if you know in your heart that you should. And God will help you to determine that. But number two is believing things will get better. So most of us have stayed longer than we should have because it was really good at one point in time. And we think to ourselves, it's going to get better. This is just a bad season. This is a challenging time. And so I just need to fight through. And I do believe in that. I do believe I don't make emotional decisions. I stay until I really know that I know that I need to go. And especially, and which I've written a lot about that in this book called What to Do When Your Spouse Has Had an Affair, the first 24 hours, because I believe that if I would have known some of these keys and these things that I discuss in this book, I wouldn't have stayed for as long as I did, because I lost so much respect for myself. And again, like being in a marriage where you're just having some challenges with your spouse is totally different than your spouse is cheating. And so I want to make that very clear, because you don't just up and leave somebody because you're just tired of them, or you're having a rough season, or your marriage is dry. There's people out there to help you in that kind of situation. There's marriage counselors. There's people that will encourage you. And know today that I'm not encouraging you just to throw in the towel over any little thing. But I'm sharing my experience with a person who was no longer interested in me. He was not interested in our marriage. He did not want to be with me. And he made that very clear. I believe that if somebody is really endeavoring to make corrections when they've made a wrong mistake, that's very obvious. You can tell when somebody is trying to right their wrong. And so I guess I held on to the hope that it would get better, that he would see the error of his ways and he would come running back, that I clung on to that relationship with all that I had, but he didn't want that. And so this is why I'm going to encourage you with this. If you've been in a situation where your spouse cheated, I really want you to consider these things. Because if I would have done these things, I believe that I honestly would have had different results. So what I tell you in the book, and I encourage you to get this if you're facing, or if you know somebody who's facing this kind of challenge. So this is how you present it whenever you've been confronted and you know that your spouse has cheated. You know for sure that they have something on the side. This is how I would suggest, having been through this. Now, I didn't do these things, and I so much regret allowing this to continue on in my home and not making him get out, because it creates such lack of peace, turmoil, distress, strain on your heart, on your mind, on every aspect of your life. Don't do that to yourself. So this is what I encourage you to do. Determine, number one, to be businesslike in your approach. You are not emotional with this person. When you find out that they've had an affair, you sit down with them like you would an employee or in a business situation. And you tell them, this is how this is going to go. And you're not crying. You're not sad and acting sad, even though you feel all of these things on the inside. Again, this is how I would encourage you to do it. You sit them down and you say, okay, this is how you want it. So be my guest. You need to go ahead and move on. You need to move out. You need to tell them they need to get their stuff and get out, or you can get it for them. You're going to tell them, you want to be free? Go ahead, be free. Don't even act like it hurt your feelings, because they need to know how serious you are about this. Go ahead, let them go, get their stuff, get them out. They'll be relieved. I'm telling you, my spouse thanked me. So you want to tell them, get their stuff, get out, but be very, very businesslike. You're not crying, oh, please stay. Oh my gosh. No, none of that. Number three, you meet with your attorney. So third, you're going to sit down with your attorney, find out what you need to do, because you do not want your finances and your everything drained because you're naive thinking that things are going to get better. Okay? Like, don't do that to yourself. Go ahead, get things set up so that they let them have their paycheck. You have your paycheck, especially if you have a shared bank account. Get things set up so that you're taken care of, and your children, if you have some, because you want to let them know you're not going to be able to have your cake and eat it too. This is what you want. You don't want me anymore. Then you need to get gone. And then go ahead, meet with your attorney, then change the locks. You need to change the locks on the house. They can't come and go as they please. And again, after you've talked to the attorney, you'll know exactly what to do. And I would encourage you to do that right away. And then lastly, if you have children, set aside time, schedule time for them to see them. You're not trying to keep anything from them. You're not trying to keep the kids from them. No, you want to make sure that you're doing everything ethically and by the book so that nothing can be said of you. But you have to guard your heart. That's what the word says. You have to guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it flows the issues of life. So that's how I would deal with the marriage situation. Please don't continue to believe that things are just going to get better, because 9 times out of 10, they're not going to get better unless they snap out of it. And this will help them to snap out of it into their reality really fast. So next, if you're in a job situation, this is how you need to know that it may be time to move on. You may have been there for a really long time and you're thinking, well, this could get better. Well, it might. So you need to give it some time. But if you've been saying that to yourself for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years, then you need to know, okay, this is not getting better. This has progressively gotten worse. I need to be really real with myself. I may be getting promotions, but if you're very miserable, you're in a toxic situation, you find yourself so stressed and full of pressure all the time, you even come home and you take work with you, it's never like there's ever any relief. You're so miserable. Maybe it's time to move on from your workplace. Because if things if nothing does change and nothing does get better with time, then you need to know it's time to move on. And so another reason why people may not be very willing to move on, or they find it challenging, is because there's too much time that's been invested. I've been in this marriage for 20 years, but they've cheated. I've been in this marriage relationship, but all of a sudden now they're drinking all the time and their personality is changing. Guys, you got to get aggressive with these things. You have to draw boundaries for yourself. You have to know where the lines cannot be crossed. You need to know for yourself, okay, when this starts to happen, I need to be ready to make some changes. Especially in a job situation, when things begin to decline, no matter how long you've stayed there, I understand. You have your blood, sweat, and your tears invested. You may have been there since the beginning of the company, and you may feel like there's no way I can back away from this. Well, really, is it worth you risking your heart, your mind, who you are, risking it all for this job that you've been there for however long, even if it's been a long period of time? You really have to evaluate and ask yourself some really serious questions. Maybe once you felt called there, you felt like God told you to go there. You felt like God told you to move there. You felt like you were supposed to be there. So it's hard for you to wonder why, God doesn't change his mind. No, he doesn't. But people change. So if people change and they become very toxic and very harmful to you personally, then you have to reevaluate, because God doesn't change his mind. But then again, he doesn't want you to be in a situation where you're being mishandled and mistreated or even hurt and things of that nature. So you really have to ask yourself really serious questions, because staying past your season doesn't honor the past and all that you gave to it. It diminishes it. And so you need to know when it's time to move on. And that represents growth. It represents you saying, okay, God, I trust you. I believe that you've shown me some things that I needed to see. And so I'm going to believe that you show me what my next steps are. And so the last one is fear of the unknown. You stay in a situation because what is familiar seems more safe to you than stepping out and moving on to something that you don't know what's going to happen. That's fear of the unknown. And you don't want to live like that. The word says in 2 Timothy 1:7 that God hasn't given you a spirit of fear, but he's given you a spirit of power and love and a sound mind. And you also need to trust that you hear the voice of the Good Shepherd. And I would suggest that you confess that over yourself on a daily basis. God, I hear your voice. I know your voice. And I think sometimes we begin to distrust the voice on the inside of us, because we do question whether or not did we hear God back then? Did I really hear him when he said to marry that person? Did I really hear him when he told me to work there? And then now I'm in this situation and I'm unsure that I even heard him before. Well, Maybe you were in a season at that point in time where you were immature. You didn't know him like you do now. Or maybe you thought that you heard him and you wanted it to be so much so that you made it happen yourself. You have to just really humble yourself and say, God, okay, somewhere along the line, I missed it, because you don't miss it. And so now, if this situation is not good and it's a really unhealthy one, I just need to know what you need me to do now. I'm not looking back. There's nothing that I can do to change what happened in the past, but I need to know what you would have me to do today. And you can't not move forward into the future because you're afraid of what's out there. You don't know what to expect. And so don't be afraid to step out into the unknown. Familiar doesn't always mean healthy. Familiar doesn't always mean safe. You don't stay somewhere just because it's what you've always known. You have to believe that God has something bigger and better for you, and it's going to stretch you and move you into the great calling that He has for your life. You don't want to stay small because you're unwilling to step into all that God has for you. And that may be uncomfortable, and it may stretch you, and it may make you just really have to trust Him with every single step that you take. But that's why it says His word is a lamp unto your feet and a light unto your path. He leads you step by step. And so step into that in faith. So as we close today, I want to share with you some red flags emotionally that may be a telltale that it's time for you to move on. Emotions help us to locate ourselves. We're not to be moved by our emotions. We're not to live by our emotions, but emotions help us to locate ourselves and to help us to know their markers. There are things that let us know, hey, this is a sign. I'm trying to help you out. Something is wrong. Like, I need to do something different. So these are some red flags emotionally that will help you to know maybe if it's time to move on. So if there's chronic dread, a steady heaviness when you think about staying, when there's loss of joy, not just in the situation, but it spills into every area of your life. There's constant confusion. There's mental fog, second guessing yourself, lack of clarity. Maybe you question yourself all the time. Maybe in a job situation, maybe even you're dealing with a toxic situation where you're being gaslit and you question, like, am I crazy? Did this really happen? Those types of situations, that's a red flag. Lingering resentment. There's irritation, bitterness, unforgiveness, resentment. It doesn't lift. It's always there because you've constantly got other situations that pile on top of the ones that you're currently dealing with. Emotional numbness. You're disengaged. You're just endeavoring to survive. There's a loss of peace. The Holy Spirit always leads us by His peace. And so you need to know that that's always a sign, kind of a red flag. Shrinking instead of growing, which you feel like you have to suppress your voice. You find yourself timid, stepping back. In meetings, you won't say anything because you found that you are embarrassed. Every time that you do, you're just thrown out there to the wolves. You're persistent. You've got persistent fatigue. You're tired all the time, and you're like, why am I tired? There's fear of staying. The fear of staying outweighs the fear of leaving. There's relief when you imagine not being there anymore, letting go of all of that. There's depression and especially suicidal thoughts. Like, if you're thinking about taking your own life, that is the biggest red flag that there is. It is time to move on. When you are so miserable and tormented in your thoughts that you're done, come on, you've got to see that that's the enemy trying to take you out with a situation that you can change. You've got to see through that because there is hope beyond this situation, and you can find that today. So please do not lose hope. If you're in a situation right now where you're feeling all of these things, these are red flags showing you gotta make a change. So don't let fear of the unknown, fear of change, hoping things will get better, don't let all of these things keep you from what you know inevitably is the decision that you've got to make. And again, I'm not making light of marriage. I'm not making light of relationships. You don't just throw in the towel when things get tough, but this is beyond that. What I'm talking about today is way beyond just, it's emotional and physical, all kinds of toxicity and things where you know, I've got to get out of this environment. It's really hurting me at this point. I'm not helping anybody. Nobody is really being helped by me, so I need to move on. So I hope this has encouraged you today. I know it's a pretty deep subject, but sometimes you gotta do deep stuff. You gotta talk about deep things, because these things don't just go away without you actually doing something about it. So be encouraged, know how much God loves you, and listen, continue to watch these messages. Subscribe to this channel so that you can be informed every single time we launch a new video, which is on a weekly basis. If you've not already purchased my book, which is the first 24 hours, what to do when your spouse has had an affair, especially if you're dealing with this type of a situation, I would encourage you to get this book because it's going to help you. I read some of the excerpts from this book today, and I just want you to know there is hope. Even if you want restoration, there's opportunities for restoration in your marriage, but you got to do it a certain way. You can't think that being clingy and holding on to them is going to make them want to stay, because it's not. Believe me, been there, done that. And so I love you guys. You can buy this book through Amazon, you can actually buy the ebook through Google Play and through iTunes, and we can get the book also through Audible. So I hope this message has encouraged you today. Continue watching, listening to these materials, and again, I want you to know there is hope beyond the hurt. So don't lose hope today.